What if I told you that being selfish in the best possible way could actually make you healthier? Forget diet trends and grueling workouts for a moment. This video reveals the shocking scientific truth about how prioritizing your own joy isn't just nice. It's a powerful prescription for a longer, more vibrant life. I know. Even hearing the word selfish might make you tense a little, especially if you're a woman over 40. Because for most of your life, selfish probably wasn't something you were allowed to be. You learned early on to be responsible, considerate, dependable, to put other people first without making a big deal out of it, to earn rest, to earn pleasure, to earn time to yourself. And somewhere along the way, joy became something extra, optional, something you'd get back to once everything else was handled, once the kids were okay, once work settled down, once everyone around you was taken care of. But here's the thing. For a lot of women, that later never really arrives. Instead, life keeps asking for more patience, more energy, more flexibility, and joy quietly slips to the bottom of the list until it feels almost unfamiliar. You might still have good moments, you might laugh, you might enjoy things, but that deep, nourishing sense of delight feels rare, or rushed, or slightly guilt-tinged. This isn't a failure on your part. It's conditioning. You were taught that joy is a reward, not a need. That taking care of yourself should look practical and productive, not pleasurable. That focusing on what lights you up is indulgent, especially at this stage of life. But what if that story is wrong? What if joy isn't something you squeeze in when everything else is done, but something your body and mind actually require to function well? What if choosing what makes you feel alive isn't selfish at all, but deeply protective of your health, your resilience, your ability to stay present in your own life? In this video, we're going to talk quietly and honestly about joy. Not the performative kind, not the forced positivity, but the simple, personal joy that lives in ordinary moments. The kind that makes you feel like yourself again. We'll talk about why joy has been framed as a luxury for so long, especially for women. And we'll begin to gently question that idea. Not with pressure, not with guilt, just with curiosity. You don't need to change anything right now. You don't need to add another thing to your list. Just listen. Let this be a conversation that feels like a soft exhale, because what if choosing joy isn't something you need permission for anymore? For many women over 40, the idea of prioritizing joy can feel uncomfortable, not because joy sounds bad, but because it feels undeserved or impractical, or like something that belongs to a different version of life. You might notice this in small, everyday moments. You hesitate before buying something just because you like it. You feel slightly guilty taking time alone when other people could use you. You downplay things that bring you pleasure so they don't sound frivolous. Somewhere inside, a voice says, "This isn't necessary." That voice didn't come out of nowhere. It was shaped by years of being needed, years of being the one who holds things together, years of learning that your value comes from what you provide, not from how you feel. Joy, in that framework, can seem selfish, especially if you've spent decades caring for children, partners, parents, co-workers. You're used to scanning for what others need, used to adjusting, used to being the steady one. Choosing joy can feel like stepping out of line. But here's what often gets overlooked. When joy disappears, something else takes its place. Chronic tension, low-level resentment, fatigue that never fully lifts, a sense of dullness you can't quite explain. You might still be functioning, but you're doing it on fumes. True self-care isn't just about maintenance. It's not only about appointments and checklists and doing what you're supposed to do. Joy is part of care. It's how your system resets. It's how your body remembers that life isn't only about effort. When you experience joy, even briefly, your breathing changes, your shoulders drop, your thoughts slow down. You become more present without trying. That isn't indulgence, that's regulation. And here's the quiet truth. When you allow yourself joy, you don't become less available to others in the ways that matter. You become less depleted, less reactive, less brittle. You show up with more patience because you're not constantly running on empty. Joy doesn't make you irresponsible. It makes you resourced. The myth that joy is selfish has kept many women locked into survival mode far longer than necessary. It's convinced you that wanting more ease, more pleasure, more delight means you're asking for too much. But joy isn't extra, it's foundational. It's one of the ways your body knows it's safe. And safety is not a luxury, it's a requirement. Letting yourself enjoy life, even in small ways, isn't abandoning anyone. It's staying connected to yourself. And that connection matters more than you've been led to believe. Joy doesn't just live in your head. It lives in your body, in your nervous system, in the way your brain responds to the world. And this is where things start to get interesting, because joy isn't just a feeling, it's a physical process. When you experience something that genuinely delights you, even briefly, your body releases chemicals that help you cope. Dopamine gives you a sense of motivation and pleasure. Oxytocin creates connection and calm. Endorphins soften pain and tension. These aren't abstract ideas. They're part of how your system regulates itself. At the same time, joy lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that tends to run high for many women over 40, especially women who have spent years juggling responsibilities, managing emotions, and pushing through exhaustion. Chronic stress keeps your body on alert. Joy tells it you're safe right now. What's powerful is that this isn't a one-time effect. When joy becomes part of your life more regularly, your brain starts to change. Neural pathways strengthen around calm, curiosity, and flexibility. You become more resilient, not because life gets easier, but because your system isn't constantly bracing for impact. This doesn't require big, dramatic changes. In fact, the brain responds beautifully to small, consistent moments of pleasure. A morning coffee you actually sit down to drink. Music that makes you feel something while you cook. A walk taken slowly, without turning it into exercise. These small moments add up. Over time, they create a different baseline. You might notice you recover from stress a little faster. You don't spiral quite as easily. Your reactions soften. That's not because you're trying harder. It's because your nervous system has more support. Many women underestimate these micro joys because they don't look productive. They don't check boxes. But biologically, they matter. They interrupt stress cycles. They give your brain a break from constant vigilance. You may have noticed that when joy is absent for long stretches, everything feels harder. Your patience wears thin. Your thinking becomes rigid. You feel overwhelmed by things that once felt manageable. That's not weakness. That's a stressed system asking for relief. Joy doesn't erase difficulty. It gives you more capacity to meet it. It's one of the ways your brain learns that life isn't only about endurance. And that rewiring happens whether you're aware of it or not. Every time you choose something that genuinely lifts you, you're teaching your system a new pattern, one that supports resilience instead of burnout. Joy doesn't stop at your mood. It reaches into your physical health in ways that are easy to overlook, especially if you've been taught to focus only on discipline and control. When stress becomes chronic, the body pays a price. Inflammation increases. The immune system weakens. Sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. Over time, this can affect everything from digestion to heart health. Many women live with these symptoms quietly, assuming it's just part of getting older. But consistent joy changes the stress equation. When your nervous system spends more time in a regulated state, your body has space to repair. Immune function improves. Inflammation markers decrease. The systems responsible for healing aren't constantly interrupted by fight or flight responses. This isn't about being happy all the time. It's about reducing the load your body carries day after day. Joy acts as a counterweight to stress. It doesn't cancel it out, but it helps balance it. You might notice this in your sleep first. On days when you felt lighter or more at ease, your body settles more easily at night. Your sleep becomes deeper, less restless. That rest feeds everything else: your energy, your focus, your patience. Cardiovascular health is also closely linked to stress levels. When stress hormones stay elevated, the heart works harder. Blood pressure rises. Joy helps regulate that response, giving your system moments of calm that accumulate over time. What matters here is accessibility. Joy doesn't need to be expensive or time-consuming to have an effect. It doesn't need to look impressive. It needs to feel real to you. That might mean cooking a meal you love just for yourself, sitting in the sun for 10 minutes without scrolling, saying no to something draining so you can say yes to something nourishing. These choices may seem small, but your body notices them. Many women have been taught to push through discomfort as a sign of strength, but strength can also look like listening, like choosing what supports your health, not just what maintains appearances. Joy supports the body in quiet ways. It helps regulate systems that have been under strain for years. It reminds your body that it's allowed to rest, to recover, to feel good. And feeling good, even in small doses, is not something you need to justify. It's part of staying well. Somewhere along the way, many women learned to associate productivity with pressure. Busy meant valuable, tired meant committed. And joy, if it showed up at all, was something that happened after the real work was done. But the brain doesn't actually work that way. When you're constantly stressed, your thinking narrows. You become focused on getting through things, not thinking around them. Creativity drops. Problem solving becomes rigid. You might notice that even simple decisions feel heavier than they used to. Not because you're less capable, but because your mental bandwidth is stretched thin. Joy opens that space back up. When you're in a lighter emotional state, your brain becomes more flexible. You're better able to see options instead of obstacles. Ideas come more easily. You connect dots without forcing it. This is why solutions often appear when you're walking, showering, or doing something enjoyable, rather than when you're sitting at a desk trying to push through. Many women over 40 carry the belief that slowing down will make them fall behind, but constantly operating under pressure actually dulls your thinking. Joy sharpens it. Sleep plays a big role here, too. Chronic stress disrupts sleep in subtle ways. You might fall asleep, but wake up frequently, or wake up feeling like you never fully rested. When joy becomes more present in your days, your nervous system settles more easily at night. That deeper rest supports memory, focus, and emotional regulation. You may notice that after a good night's sleep, things feel more manageable. Conversations flow more smoothly. You're less reactive. That's not accidental. That's your brain working with you instead of against you. Joy also reconnects you with curiosity, the part of you that wonders instead of worries, that tries new approaches instead of defaulting to old ones. For many women, creativity doesn't disappear with age. It gets buried under responsibility. When you give yourself permission to enjoy things again, that creative energy resurfaces naturally, not as something you have to chase, but as something that was waiting for space. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about giving your mind the conditions it needs to work well. Joy isn't a distraction from clarity. It's one of the ways clarity returns. By the time you reach this stage of life, you've probably learned that big transformations rarely happen all at once. They happen quietly, through small choices that start to add up. Prioritizing joy works the same way. When you begin to treat your own joy as something that matters, even in modest ways, your whole system responds. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. Your body softens, your mind feels a little clearer. The constant edge of pressure eases just enough for you to breathe more fully. This isn't about chasing happiness or forcing positivity. It's about choosing moments that genuinely nourish you and letting them count. Letting them matter as much as obligations and responsibilities have mattered for so long. You might think of it as making a quiet appointment with yourself, something small and realistic. Something that doesn't need to be impressive, a walk you take just because it feels good, time spent with music or books or silence. An afternoon where you don't rush to be useful. What's important is that you don't treat these moments as expendable, that you don't cancel them automatically when someone else needs something. Not because you're being rigid, but because you're acknowledging that your well-being is not optional. When women start doing this, something interesting often happens. They notice they're less reactive, less resentful, more patient without trying to be. That's because joy restores what chronic stress depletes. It gives you a reserve. This is where vitality comes from, not from pushing harder or managing yourself better, but from supporting your system in ways that feel humane. Joy helps regulate your nervous system, which supports your hormones, your sleep, your immune function. It's all connected, even if it doesn't always get talked about that way. Taking ownership of your joy can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to measuring your worth by how much you give. But this isn't about withdrawing from your life. It's about participating in it more honestly. Joy doesn't make you less responsible. It makes you more present, more grounded, more able to engage without burning out. And there's something quietly powerful about choosing joy at this stage. It sends a message to yourself and to those around you that your life is not on hold, that you are not done, that pleasure, curiosity, and vitality are still allowed. You don't have to announce this shift. You don't have to justify it. It can be private, gentle, steady. This can be your revolution, not loud or dramatic. Just a consistent choice to support yourself in ways that feel good and sustainable. Over time, that choice reshapes how you live and how you feel living. And that kind of vitality doesn't fade quickly. It grows. If you're still here, I want to slow things down for a moment. Not to summarize or wrap this up neatly, but to sit with what this conversation might have stirred in you. Because talking about joy can bring up unexpected feelings. Relief maybe, curiosity, and sometimes sadness for how long it's been since joy felt like a natural part of your life. If that's coming up for you, it makes sense. For many women over 40, joy wasn't taken away in one dramatic moment. It faded gradually, it got postponed, quietly traded for responsibility, reliability, and being the one who keeps everything moving. And over time, it can start to feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, to put yourself back into the center of your own life. But choosing joy doesn't mean rejecting who you've been or what you've carried. It means acknowledging that you're still here, that your body, your mind, your spirit still need care that feels good, not just care that looks practical. You don't need to overhaul your life to begin. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Sometimes the most meaningful shift is simply allowing yourself to notice what feels good without immediately dismissing it. Letting a moment of enjoyment last a little longer. Letting yourself rest without earning it first. Joy doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't require consistency or discipline. It meets you where you are, in ordinary moments, in ways that are personal and often very quiet. And choosing it now, at this stage of life, isn't indulgent. It's wise. Your system has carried a lot. It deserves relief. It deserves nourishment. It deserves moments that remind you that life can feel good, not just manageable. If all you take from this video is permission to take yourself seriously again, that's enough. Permission to want more ease, more lightness, more moments that feel like you. You don't have to justify that desire. You don't have to minimize it. And you don't have to wait until everything else is perfect to begin. Joy isn't something you add to your life once it's under control. It's part of how life becomes livable, and you are allowed to choose that, even now. Before you go, I want to invite you to join this community of women rediscovering themselves after 40. If you found comfort, clarity, or even just a moment of peace in this video, please subscribe. It helps this channel grow, and it helps more women find the support they deserve. And if you have a second, leave a like and a comment. I would love to hear what resonated with you the most. Thank you for being here. Truly.